You know, as big as Pokemon is nowadays and how we would usually first think of it as a major gaming franchise, I don't think it is often discussed about enough in terms of the impact that it has in animation.
Regardless if you play them or not, you most likely know about the massive cultural impact of the games and how they led to the cards, the manga, the merch, and many more. But when it comes to the anime, that plays a very significant role in turning Pokémon into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. I'm not just talking about the longest running series based on a video game. This is one of the longest running Japanese animated series of all time that's still continuing. Even back when it all began in the late 1990s, it was an immediate phenomenon, and many have credited the show to be one of the series that sparked the popularity of anime in Western cultures. Seriously, it's no mistake that Pikachu is often referred to as the Japanese Mickey Mouse. And I'm not joking either that it's still going on to this day. The sheer size of the anime can even put The Simpsons to shame, where as of this review, it gathered a total of nearly 25 seasons, around 1,200 episodes, and spawned dozens of movies, several spin-offs, and specials, all telling the same adventure of a kid and his Pikachu on their pursuit of becoming a Pokémon master, as well as avoiding two bumbling villains and their talking Meowth, and thwarting their plans to send them blasting off again. But I gotta say, the fact that they fail literally over 1,000 times and still keep doing what they do is honestly the most admirable perseverance you could ever find on television.
How can we breathe underwater?
Go with the flow. Sometimes it's better not to ask questions.
Hey, Jesse, I got a question that's better I shouldn't ask. Do you think we're gonna get a bigger part in the next movie?
But what I'm going to be talking about here will not be related to any of Ash's adventures. Yes, these times are very rare, but it has happened when Pokemon actually does not focus on one of the most popular kids in anime history, nor does it even focus on a single Pikachu. But instead, I'm going to be talking about a mini-series that focuses on the world of Pokemon and how others live their lives alongside other Pokemon as well, which in this case is Twilight Wings.
Released across 2020, Twilight Wings is an original net animation series that revolves around the world established in Pokemon Sword and Shield, the 8th generation of the Pokemon games set in the Galar region, along with highlighting many of its characters and gym leaders. Sure, the main series already has Ash and Galar and meeting those people in Pokemon Journeys, but considering that Sword and Shield are among the best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch and some of the best-selling Pokemon games with over 20 million copies sold, then it shouldn't be a surprise that the franchise really wants to make the most out of its time in Galar.
Now, I've already stated in the past that I am a lifelong Pokemon fan. Like, I have been hooked to the franchise since the very beginning in the late 1990s when they would release Red and Blue, alongside with airing the first episodes on television, and even once collected the original cards back when they started to become really popular. However, I will admit nowadays that it has been a little bit different when it comes to my Pokemon fan side, because it has been a long time, years even, since I've seen any of the recent episodes or the recent movies. Trust me, like if I would want to go back to any of the animation side of Pokemon, I have a long way to go in order to catch up to nowadays. However, when it comes to the games, that is a completely different story. I still play many of the Pokemon games to this day, especially with Sword and Shield on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, I would even go as far and say that this is actually one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games, and it was actually the game I've played the most throughout the pandemic. Like, that was actually the one thing that actually helped me get by the pandemic, is by playing a lot of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Like, I've actually played a lot of it. And when I say that I played a lot of it, I mean that I've played way too much of Sword and Shield. Like, honestly, I've played an extremely unhealthy amount of time playing this one single game. Please, help me. But this is all to say that I am quite familiar with the Galar region, and that this review will be coming from an interesting perspective as a Pokemon fan like myself. because this is going to be from the point of view of someone whom it has been such a long time since I've seen anything from the anime side of things in Pokemon, but is still up to date with all the video games in Pokemon. And after playing in Galar for so long, how is it now that I am watching Galar?
Twilight Wings is an anthology series where each story has a small connection with one another that highlights some of the characters from Sword and Shield, like Chairman Rose and his assistant Oleana, the champion Leon and his little brother Hop, and the gym leaders Nessa, Bee, and Alistair. The rest do have a chance to pop up in the series, but only as a cameo or as a minute-long side character like Milo, Rayhan, and Sonia. So I can say right now that some might be a little disappointed that their fan favorites don't have their time to shine in the show. Especially Sonia, since she is the Pokemon character that I have the biggest crush on. But while there isn't much of a narrative connection with each, what is surprising to find is that there is an emotional core in some of these episodes. They're mostly in the form of little lessons like being yourself, achieving your goals, and the importance of apologizing, but they each resonate with the personality of the episode's respective lead, resulting in the series' biggest strength of developing these characters further so that fans could emotionally connect with them more than how they are presented in the game, telling the audience that they're not just trainers and gym leaders, but they are also people.
I'm such a terrible trainer. At this rate, I won't beat Leon, or anyone else for that matter.
If there is one thing that does connect all these episodes, outside of the setting, it's the subplot of John, a boy in the hospital exclusive to Twilight Wings, whose dream is to watch a match featuring Leon live at the stadium. Maybe some might find the plot enjoyable and add that extra heart to feature a sick kid trying to make his dream come true, but I just find that those parts suck. They just feel cliched, like it's using a cheap old tactic to make the series heartfelt, and the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Easily predictable of the outcome, the kids like John and Tommy can feel unlikable, and their voices are blatantly obvious of how these little boys are played by grown women.
I'm gonna ask him to invite me to one of Leon's matches.
Huh? You mean like live? I doubt it. There's no way he's just gonna give you a ticket to see the champion. And besides, wouldn't it be easier to ask in person?
Then again, I will say that there is another problem with this series that I will say is much bigger than the John subplots. I will give it though that there are some things that I can't necessarily fault it for, because I can tell that the series is trying to make the most of what it wants to do. But the problem is, it can't really do much when it has such a short running time to begin with.
Yeah, I probably forgot to mention this, but this is a very short series. Not just by the amount of episodes with only 7, but also by the running time, each with an average length of 6 to 7 minutes. Sure, some could argue that cartoons are generally fine being that long, and even animated shorts can sometimes be smaller and work well on their own. This is not the case with Twilight Wings. There is a clear story that they want to tell with each episode, almost like a narrative built for the main Pokémon series, but because of how they are limited to just 6 to 7 minutes, the plot had to be stripped to its most basic structure, almost like it had to rush its way to get to its conclusion while facing little to no conflict along the way. Normally this wouldn't be much of an issue, but a big part to why it bothers me is because, well, to be honest, some of these episodes are really good. Like, I wanted more of what they were offering to have the moments last longer. To feel more connected with Bee when she's reflecting on her training techniques in the cave. With Nessa when she's contemplating to either be a good gym leader or a good model. With Sonia to spend more time with the most beautiful redhead in Galar. Oh my god, I think I'm starting to sound like Brock. But you get what I mean, right? It has the right materials to make a very solid episode, but it could have benefited from having more time to explore its ideas.
It's just exactly how high you'll reach is up to you.
I won't deny that there is actually something with Twilight Wings, that there is something that it is capable of standing out much more than just being associated with the Sword and Shield game, and that it can actually deliver some good amount of substance that both fans and non-fans could actually go and enjoy. But with the incredibly short running time of just 6 to 7 minutes at a time, it cannot necessarily go and do much in the first place when it can't even have the time to go and deliver as much as it possibly wants to do. And by the way, there is also another thing that I do have a problem with this series, or, well, maybe not necessarily a problem per se. Some people might look at me and think that what I'm about to say is just going to be a weird nitpick, but I still feel like it is worth asking. Because the thing is, with Twilight Wings, I actually watched the English dub of this, that I watched it with the characters speaking in English. But with that said, why don't the characters sound British?
Again, I know it's weird to ask, but hear me out on this one. The Galar region is said to be inspired by the United Kingdom.
But it's the fastest in all of Galar.
And by the way, yes, I know some say Galar, but I'm still gonna say Galar anyways because I might as well be the only person who acknowledges that there is a second A! And considering how many of the landmarks and the culture is based off of the UK, wouldn't it make sense to also give the characters an English accent? I'm not saying that the voice acting here is terrible. It's okay, as Pokemon animes go, but why not push for that authenticity to give them accents to really capture that UK-inspired feeling? In fact, even the games give them a dialect in the speech boxes, so wouldn't an accent also help them be more authentic to the game it's based on?
I got a little lost on the road.
But I know, I'm getting too nitpicky and negative at this point. Like, I might as well be begging for a Sinnoh remake for years just so I can end up complaining about it. So let me balance that out with another thing I like about this. As you've probably seen throughout this review, the series did do a good job on the animation, which was done by Studio Colorido, except for the B episode, which that one was done by Filmini. I won't say it's great animation or even the best animation in the franchise. I'd say it's about as good as what you'd find nowadays in the latest episode of the main show. But it is still solid on its own and succeed in bringing its viewers to the world of Pokemon, especially with its vibrant and detailed backgrounds that can feel like a living, breathing region. Of course, the best visual moments are whenever the characters interact with the Pokemon as they form a bond or prepare for battle. In fact, the series does deliver a spectacular finale where the animation suddenly gets a boost to present the Gigantamax battle between Leon's Charizard and Raihan's Duraludon.
So generally, the animation here is good. It can definitely sometimes be great, especially with that finale, but for the most part, it keeps itself visually decent, you know? The animation is fine. And actually, that's actually the best word to describe this entire series. And I think for both the Pokemon fan side of me and for the animation critic side of me, they would both agree that overall, this series is fine.
And that's the best thing you could say about Pokemon Twilight Wings. It's fine. The stories are fine, the animation is fine, the voice acting is fine, the heart is fine, everything about it is fine. Not really the most memorable animation moment of the franchise, but nothing really to complain about either. Except for the part where they show dugongs where they're not even in the game, which triggered a lot of fanboys to rage about the missing national decks, leaving them crying because they can't catch a Bidoof. But at the very least, the series knows what it is. It's not trying to be anything special or be a landmark in the franchise's history. It's just a little expansion of Sword and Shield to give fans a chance to get to know the characters they meet a little more. Where the game is a whole meal in itself, this is just a snack that complements the main course, which is why all 7 episodes together is just a little less than 50 minutes, on top of a bonus 8th episode that quickly highlights the game's DLCs, the Isle of Armor, and the Crown Tundra. If you want to check them out, then you could go to Pokemon's official YouTube channel and see them for free. But if you want to get the most enjoyment out of the show, I recommend that you get familiar with the game's story first so that the story here can make sense. If I gotta give this a rating, I'd go with a 7 out of 10. I don't need it for my Sword and Shield experience, but I do appreciate the work put in there.
It actually really does depend on how much people actually do care about the game's plotline if they want to go and invest themselves on Twilight Wings' story. As a player myself, I am very well aware that there are a variety of reasons why people actually do play the Pokemon games. Rather it be to play it competitively, to complete the Pokedex, to collect shinies, or whatever. However, when it comes to the story, when it comes to the plotline within the games, it's actually much more rare than a legendary to find someone who would actually go as far as play the games mainly because of the story itself, to indulge themselves in the game's writing than anything else that the game itself would actually go and offer. Let's be honest, most people would go and reserve their cares for the story for Ash's adventures. And let's be real, do people actually care about the story within the Pokemon anime? Is that really something that people actually watch the anime for the story, for the plotline? Even that can be a little bit debatable. And that's honestly why, when it comes to Twilight Wings, it doesn't necessarily have that much value in the first place because it mainly caters to a lesser important aspect of the game itself, or at the very least, an aspect that not many people care as much as some of the other things that the games would offer. But then again, at the end of the day, I will say that for what Twilight Wings wants to do for the game on its own, or for the show on its own, of course, I will say that it's actually pretty good. What it tries to accomplish, it did it decently well, and I can't really hate it or fault it for it, so it knows what it wants to be, and that's perfectly fine, and I could definitely respect it for what it ultimately is. Wait, hold on a sec. Is Metagross usually gold and silver? What? Holy crap, it's shiny! Okay, alright, show is over, roll the credits. Alright, I need to be alone now. Time for me to make the catch of the day! Okay, so do you honestly want to know how much time I've actually spent on Pokemon Sword and Shield, or in this case, my copy of Pokemon Sword? Now, I am not going to show you the amount of hours that I've actually played in this thing, but I'm going to show you something else that will actually say how much I've spent on it in the same kind of way. So hold on, let me see if I can actually show you. Yep, okay, so it does work. So as you could tell, this is my box of shinies. So this is proof that this is actually all shiny Pokemon, every single one of them in here. So this is an entire box that's just filled with shiny Pokemon. But keep in mind that this is not the only one. I have plenty of shinies. And when I say that I have plenty of shinies, I actually do have plenty of shinies. Plenty of boxes that are filled with unique shinies, all competitive ready, that they have the right stats, they got the right nature, they got the right moves, they were pretty much all set for battle. And it's not just these, I also got, these are all Gigantamax Pokemon that are all actually shinies. Look, this is shiny, this is shiny. All this that you see here is actually shiny. And actually, hold on a sec, there's also another thing that I want to show you. There is another box that I do have, another one. Yep, if you want to know, yes, I also do have the legendary Pokemon in shiny form as well. So I also have this, 2 boxes worth of legendary shinies. So this is pretty much all to say that I've pretty much gathered, as of this review, almost every single shiny that I could find, and that I have a problem.